Hello again folks, and welcome to another brand new set review. The Meccano Maker System 2 model excavator set. You can see the excavator, the main model on the front there. There's also a bulldozer which I'll show you a picture of in a bit. It's 10 plus years and has 254 pieces. It's a slightly smaller box than the Ducati motorbike. Let's have a look. Where are we? It's about the same length, but it seems a little... Yeah, it's only a fraction. It's about a quarter-inch difference. Seems a lot smaller than it actually it is. A bit lighter, less parts of course. Something like, I don't know, 40 less parts roughly. And quite effective looking. We've got new tracks. We've got new plastic parts in the form of these sides. I dare say that is as well. That does look a bit mechanoidy. We've got these plastic strips here, and we've got 1/4 inch hole space parts. Now, whilst I've been getting a little bit more used to the 1/4 inch hole spaced parts, I do like to see a bit of the traditional standard size strips with 1/2 inch holes, just to keep the line going, as it were. And regular viewers will know I have this sort of affliction, if you like, towards these 1/4 inch hole space parts. I was getting better, but 2 sets on the go with majority of these parts, and I've started coming out in a rash already again. I thought I was getting over it, but obviously not. And guess how far apart those dots are on the rash? Yes, I bet you can guess, can't you? Anyway, so yeah, it's looking a little bit too modern, dare I say, for me. I try and accept new things, or at least look at it with an open mind, but I'm starting to get that rash back. I don't like it. Several plastic parts, newish plastic part, or very new. These sides are certainly new. The new tracks, as I say, slightly wider by the looks of it than the traditional Army and superhighway multi-kit. Sorry, only the superhighway multi-kit and Army kit. The highway multi-kit never had the tracks. Look a bit wider and a bit further apart. We'll have a look at those in a bit. We look like we've got, I'm guessing they'll be 1/2 inch pulleys with rubber ring to fit. That's useful. Nice looking model all in, really. On the box it looks like the bucket will work, and a little bit, and we've got a knob there to turn, so I presume that'll lift up the arm as well, so it seems to have some decent play value. $26.95. I presume that's the RRP, although it seems a little bit of an odd price, to be honest. It came with the free postage in the same parcel as the Ducati motorbike set. So let's have a look. Let's hope I don't come out in any more of a rash. And as I've mentioned before, you can see it's the Chinese made sets because of the flap type boxes, not the serrated sort of tear off strip type. Is that all? Oh, I'm missing one. Well, they don't stinge on securing the boxes, that's for sure. But it seems a decent box again. And I like to see this. This is the same with the Ducati box. Reasonably sized box for the parts that are in the box, so it looks quite impressive. Perhaps not quite as full as the Ducati box, but nonetheless better than looking at a massive box with just a few little bags in that rolls up and down. And the best example of that, if I haven't already said in a earlier video, would be the Unicorn ship, the Tintin line from what, I don't know, probably about 4 years ago now. You can still get it, and in France and probably the US and Canada it is available as a pirate ship, but not over here. It's a pretty evil model to build because of the shape of the boat. It can be quite problematic to get into spots. It's not bad when it's put together, but the sails fall off because it only uses half-size rod connectors, and no good. Anyway, I have had that built for some time, but I haven't not got round to doing a video on it. It's one of them ones. It's like I don't really think it's worth it, really, in some ways. But anyway, we'll come back to that one day, maybe. Right, let's move the box out the way for this one and have a look at the first bag out the box, which happens to have the tools, the usual posh driver. We've got several parts in yellow, a different yellow to the, I suppose, more of a canary yellow to the 5 model construction set, with the things like the road roller and the cherry picker, I think it is, and high level forklift, that sort of thing. Which this seems a brighter, more yellow. Some useful to have yellow parts, because yeah, I could still use them with like the old crane multi-kit, even though the yellows are a bit different. There must be more different shades of Meccano parts in yellow than any other colour, I would have thought, because there's been so many variants, and it tends, or the older paint tend, and I'm talking probably 70s, the yellow tends to get really played up by sunlight, and it can go all sorts of strange shades. So we've got fairly long narrow strips in black, sort of a matte black, not too dissimilar from some of the parts in the tower crane, but those are gloss. Right, let's have a look at the next bag we got. Bolts, looking at it, we've got some nylock nuts as well in there. Certainly start from 12, oh there's one 9mm I can see, certainly, so 9mm up to about 23 by the looks of it. We've got some zinc parts, good pointer to set finish qualities, a good zinc, and these indeed do look very good indeed. Not that many zinc parts, of course. There's the tyres for the 1/2 inch pulleys, the triaxle 1/2 inch pulleys. Triaxles, of course, we've got a compression spring. And I did see some more bolts in there? Yes, there's some more bolts in there. A bit longer, I suppose. They're about 38mm at a guess. Just there. Right, what else? There's plenty of bags in here. Yes, it has been confirmed. New plastic parts. Now the sides, they're obvious on the box cover. The chassis for the cab is straight off a Meccanoid. I suppose you call that a flat plate. Black, of course, not grey. We've got these obtuse, I suppose, plastic strips. Plastic, of course, not a new thing, is it? But a lot of it's new in Meccano. These strips here, plastic strips. Looking on the other side, let's see. Yep, they've got the mouldings in the back for the nuts, as we saw in the instructions for the Ducati motorbike. They're shown there in general purpose. These, whatever these are, have teeth to grip. These shorter brackets or strips there. I'm just wondering, actually, I'm going to get one of those new strips out, and I shall be very annoyed if what I think is correct is correct. So, there's a strip, and here's a tape measure. That's alright. 1/2 inch spacing, but I'll be honest with you, it doesn't look like it on there, because of the thicker surrounds the holes, I suppose. I thought we can have 1 centimetre there, and I would have swore. We can't have any of that. Anyway, so I might as well get all these out as I open the bag. Not very easy to see on, you know, I've got a piece of paper here. Not very easy to see on the black t-shirt, of course. So there's the Meccanoid part, just there. And I dare say, like the parts formerly known as Evolution parts, they won't be known as Meccanoid parts eventually. It'll just be a Meccano part, because that's where they started. So we've got these strips with the mouldings in the back, 2 inch I suppose those are. I suppose, you know, on looking at it another way, though plastic, I'm always after 2 inch strips. So there seems to be 3 of those, and the new sides. And these, well, they are strips to an extent, plastic of course, with these grips on. Just there. We've got those, got 2 of those. And it seems just one of these, certainly boomerang shaped, if you like. Quite solid though. They say that's quite strong. So there's one of those. Right then, what else have we got? Then looking at it, we seem to have quite a lot of stuff that's pretty bog standard. We'll do the standard stuff first. We've got the usual black spacers. There are some metal washers in there as well, standard washers, quite a few, so another good set perhaps to buy for those if you need them. Usual small and standard washers and thick, well 5/0, 1.5 inch plastic strips. Standard nuts and bolts, not a great deal of those. That is always a good pointer to a good value set. It's got lots of standard nuts and bolts in my mind. It gives you a good sort of guideline. This and the Ducati one don't, so you probably have to go on the longer bolts for that to see if it's worth your while. And here we have a bag of the new tracks, which is a very useful thing to have. Caterpillar tracks, even though it's been done before, as I said, the Army multi-kit and the Superhighway multi-kit. Let's have a look at some of these tracks before we go any further. I'll get rid of those new parts because I could do with that piece of paper again. Let's get a sample out. So here we are, we've got these new tracks. Quite hard plastic. Very hard indeed actually. I think they might snap, but it takes some doing, feeling that. Let's have a look how they go together. Now we've got the instruction book, so let's for a change use it. Again, nice to see it in a plastic bag, that's very nice indeed. And even this light, the Ducati, I didn't mention it, but the Ducati instruction book was the same. Stitched, bound quite properly really, or near enough. So, we'll have a look at that business in regarding fitting the tracks together here. I'll just pick it up to show you. There you can see, the bottom right corner there, the tracks. So let's see. We'll grab 2 pieces of the track and basically you fit one male end, we call that, there, with the little bibbles on, into the female end of the next piece, which is there. You can see the holes there. So let's try that. Seems quite stiff. Of course it is now. Oh, hang on. Oh, that's alright once you get the hang of it. So there we are. There you have a couple of other new tracks put together. Not too bad at all. Of course they're new, I dare say, once they wear. They'll be easy to put together, but hopefully they won't come apart. So we've got quite a few of those. I tell you what, let's find some of the original tracks. So here we are folks, we've got some original tracks. Looking at where they've come from in my pile, they're from the Army multi-kits from the I suppose mid to late 70s. A decent set that is, by the way, the Army multi-kit, because you can actually make things like guns that work, 5 little plastic, well I suppose you call them axle rods really, about 1.5 inch long. There's good models in there, some good tanks and stuff, far less disastrous for parts than the combat multi-kit, which entails really bending parts. Anyway, so this is the original type. Where's that? I'll put together. I'll show you them side by side. Pardon my creaky floorboards, and there we go. The new and the old. Approximately, I don't know, 40 years in it. Now, looks wise, I prefer the old. Usefulness wise, I prefer the new. Why? Simple. The new's got holes in it, and I ain't got a clue what I'd use the holes for, but you could put bolts through there for extra grip, in muddy conditions if you was going to do something a little bit more extreme. But it's been a while since I've used any of the old track. I'm just mounting it up really for a Land Rover project. Not going to use the tracks for that, but of course when I'm buying job lots of the army green stuff for this Land Rover, that probably isn't going to happen now, you get a load of track with it most of the time. Now, if I remember right, I'll do this off camera, so I can take it apart and show you a couple of segments on their own. Right. Another thing I've found is that this is harder to take apart than I can remember, but it's essentially the same as the new. The female clips in to the male end. There we are. There's the female end, and there's the male end. You can see the bibble there. Try to get to focus. You can see the hole on that there, and then it's a case of clipping it. That was a lot easier to put on than take off. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going to ask, aren't you, can you use the new with the old? The answer is, I think, going to be no. First up, it is no really. There we've got the new. Focus, you swine. There we've got the new track, and you can see it's got quite a small bibble on the end. Here's the old track with the big hole. So I will try just to show you. Of course it's far too wide anyway for it to link up, so the answer is, in simple terms, no. You can't use the old with the new. Now, we don't know what's in the pipeline with some stuff that may come later, of course, not yet. But the beauty of the old track, one of the beauties anyhow of it, one, it's cheap and it's in plentiful supply if you, on the internet really. You shouldn't have any difficulty finding it, but you can run the plastic, well, I won't call them gears, they're more like chain wheels really, and they do fit in there. And indeed some of the Army multi-kit models and the super highway multi-kit models, bulldozers and tanks of course, you run them in that and they work fairly well. You haven't got that by the looks of it on the new type. Let's get a few more so you can see the segments. You see there, you haven't got anything on the face of it to sit in, and as we've seen on the box picture, and I'll show you on the instruction book now, which is why it runs on these half-inch pulleys with O-rings to suit. Well, tyres you might say, but yeah, O-rings really. So in some ways better than the old, in some ways not as good as the old. Let's show you the second model. You got to download the instructions for this off the internet, which I've just heard on the web that they are on from today. And there you can see, not a bad looking bulldozer at all. I do sort of like, when I see these models like this, the construction models, think about making some of the original highway and super highway multi-kit models and putting them together really, and just have a nice display of the old and the brand new. So that's the second model. Pretty good looking as well, I think, that one. The new plastic sides forming much of the body, which will make it, I suppose, a bit easier to do. So we've got that, and of course the finger's getting a bit sore. I don't know why. Any ideas, folks? I don't know what's going on there. It's only since I've been looking at this set. Keep an eye on that. Anyway, we've got the instructions. And here we have, showed you before with the Ducati, but the standard layout for putting certain parts together, included the standard instructions, and that's the track, that's the 2-inch plastic strips with the recesses for the nuts, and these ball joints that lock together, which none of those parts in here yet. Don't know what they'll be in, to be honest. Perhaps some of the dinosaur sets so you can move the neck and the arms, I don't know. We'll find out, I suppose. So there you are, folks, just to confirm, the one included in these instructions is that one, and there is the one you download. Just go onto Meccano's website and click on the instructions button, select whichever set theme you want. There's several ways you can search by number, name, theme, so check there. They're not always there sometimes with the new sets, but I've just heard that these have been put on. So there we are, we have the straight away, it looks quite clear. We have the 1/2-inch pulleys with the O-rings to fit, 8 of those, that's handy. So if you need some 1/2-inch tyres, good set for those, you get 8. Clicking all the track together there. On the whole, can't see a problem with clarity so far. Again, the black is a bit of a blob, really. There ain't much in the way of white outlining. There's the odd little bits on these spacers and a few of the parts, but nothing. It ought to be everywhere, really. Let's see what we've got elsewhere in the book. Again, it's a bit blocky with the black, but you know, there's nothing. It's not too bad. It certainly has been worse in the past. The Ducati is probably a little bit duller, a bit darker, but not too bad. Right, parts then. Let's see what we've got. We've got some of the new plastics, of course. Plastic bits down here. Nothing. Perhaps smaller new plastic parts than the Ducati. Nothing too enlightening, I suppose. You could say you've got 6 good amount of narrow angle brackets. You've got the 6 narrow angle brackets in yellow this time. So goodbye there, if you need yellow, of course. Standard nuts, 43, 6 nylock, which, looking even at the design there, is the shallower and perhaps much more useful because of that mechanoid nylock nut. 20 washers, so good for washers as well. When I got 22 standard bolts, but I suppose having the spring in this and the Ducati set, it does mean we've got something that we haven't had for a while as well. So nothing too. My hands in half itchy. You know, oh, look at that! It's this. Oh, it's this 1/4-inch spacings. Oh, it's come back. So there you are, folks. The latest 2 model Meccano Maker System set, the Excavator, and of course second model Bulldozer, $26.95 or around that at the moment. Again, the longer you wait, the probably cheaper they'll get. And you know about as much as I do now on both this and the Ducati set. I haven't really found up much on the web about them. I don't think. Well, the Ducati's been featured a little bit on a few websites, and I don't think there's any real issues with that. But really, you know about as much as I do. These are set reviews, so take from that what you like. Be interesting to see what you think of the plastic parts in this set, especially. As I said, I do like a little bit of tradition to follow through, and I dare say you could say, well, it's got the same imperial threaded bolts, so there's your tradition, I suppose. But we'll see. Let's see what it's like with the build. This one does look good. I'm a bit I would say disheartened, but you know, things do move on. But let's just say I'm not so excited in a way, because of the lack of traditional sized and spaced parts. But no doubt it is a good looking model. So that's it for now, folks. I haven't got a clue what's next, other than that there's lots lots of sets of varying ages. There's a pile of them, to be honest, and it is a slow process having to video a set before I use it, if it's one I haven't done before, of course, then build whatever I'm going to do with it, then show you the model I've built with it, if it's any good, and if it's absolutely dire. And there's only been 2 of them, I think, since I've been doing these, about 3 years back into Meccano. So there you go, folks. I'd like to know what you think, I suppose, as indeed all of the videos, but especially when there's a fairly a decent amount of change in the style, you might say, of the builds. Perhaps not vastly, but I will say for this, it is looking quite chunky model, not perhaps a little bit fiddly like some of the Evolution models were, but we'll see. Bye for now.